Hello everyone, these are some Notifier System 500 fire alarm control panels. These were first produced in the early 1990s as a smaller counterpart to the System 5000. Each System 500 can hold anywhere from 4 to 16 initiating zones and is designed for small to medium-sized applications. Its modular design allows for a wide degree of functionality, and its microprocessor allows for more advanced functions such as signal coding, alarm verification, I/O mapping, and serial communications. For this demonstration, we will take a look at 3 different System 500 panels. First, we'll take a look at this older System 500 that is configured for selective signaling. Over here is another older System 500, this one rebranded by ADT as the Unimode 416, and this one is configured for 2-stage signaling. Lastly, we'll take a look at this System 500 in a newer style cabinet that is configured for agent release. So let's jump right into this. So here's our first demonstration system with the older System 500. This is my first System 500. It was originally built in 1993, although it's been modified since. Had to replace the power supply and clean out the cabinet because it was full of rust. So real quick, we can take a look at the cards on this system. On the left is the main CPU card, CPU 500. And we'll go into more detail on that in a little bit, but this is the main control board. In the middle here is an IC4 signal card. This provides 4 signal circuits, and attached to it is an ICE4 expander card, so there's a total of 8 signal circuits on this card. The CPU has its own 2 signal circuits, so this system has a total of 10 signal circuits. And on the right is just the IZ8 zone card, just has a bunch of initiating circuits on it. These 2 cards connect via ribbon cable back to the CPU, and that's how they are controlled and supervised. Right there's the transformer, and underneath all these cards is the MPS24B power supply. It powers the system, and it's also responsible for powering any signal circuits or external devices like annunciators. All these little orange connectors there are signal harnesses to power all of the signals. So as mentioned earlier, this System 500 is configured for selective signaling. In this case, when a zone goes into alarm, the floor above and floor below that alarm zone will also sound their signals. So for instance, if the second floor alarms, in addition to the second floor signals, the first and third floor signals will also sound. And if the fourth floor alarms, then the fourth floor, third floor, and the penthouse signals will sound. The penthouse is the 5th floor in this case. And all of these signal circuits are configured to resound if there's a subsequent alarm. So if the second floor alarms, then the 4th floor, then that would alarm all the signal circuits in this system. So to demonstrate, we have 2 initiating devices and 2 signals, and they're both paired together on separate floors. So on the second floor, we have a BRG1 pole station and a system sensor mass 1 strobe. This is an older style mass, it's set to 800 Hz. On the 4th floor, we have a BNG1R pole station and a system sensor mass 24M. It's a 15 candela strobe, and even though it's 980A, it's still pretty bright. And it's set to slow whoop. Both signals are coded to temporal by the IC4 signal card they're connected to. And as mentioned before, there's selective signaling, so if we activate this pole station, it will only sound that signal. And if the BNG1R pole station is activated, only the mass 24M will sound. And if we activate both pole stations, then both signals will sound. So let's demonstrate that. Okay, signals are silenced. Close the door and we can see what's lit up here. So you got system alarm, alarm silenced, SC tie and alarm relay, which sound on all alarm conditions. Second floor alarm. And as mentioned before, the first, second, and third floor signals sounded. The audibles have been silenced, but the strobes are still flashing, if there were any. And you may notice that the temporal coding from that signal card is a bit strange. The third blast is a little bit longer. It's kind of interesting. All right, so now we'll reset the system and then we can activate the 4th floor signals. Okay, so 4th floor alarm, 4th floor, 3rd floor, and penthouse signals sounded. If you listen carefully, you may have noticed that some of the signal circuits pulsed a bit differently, and those are the CPU signal circuits. They have a more normal temporal coding, but the IC force is a little bit different. So now, if we do a subsequent alarm, then both mass signals will sound like this. Their sounds again, and all the floor's visuals are still flashing. Reset that. And we're back to normal. And that's it for this demonstration system. Selective signaling is more common in high-rise buildings where you may not want to evacuate everyone in the building for an alarm condition. Instead, you'll just evacuate people in the alarm floor and the floors above and below, and maybe a few additional floors depending on the evacuation procedure. Of course, the System 500 was not designed for high-rise buildings, but this is a good demonstration of the I/O mapping capabilities that this and the System 5000 had. For the next demonstration, we have the ADT Uniboard 416, and it's configured for 2-stage signaling. So this one uses the same old-style cabinet, although this particular panel is a little bit newer. I think this one was made in 1996 or so. And it came with this dress panel, which is pretty neat. So the layout is nearly identical to that System 500, but instead of having an IC4 signal card, there's a TC4 timer card back there. And that card can be used for either 4 releasing circuits or 4 signal circuits for 2-stage signaling. In this case, the latter. So the left side LEDs indicate alert stage, or first stage. Signals will sound in slow march time or 20 beats per minute. The right side LEDs indicate evac, or second stage, and signals will sound in fast march time or temporal. In this case, we're using fast march time, 120 beats per minute. And through programming, each of the initiating zones can be used to either initiate first stage or second stage, or a combination depending on the mapping. So for this system, any of the left side zones here, zones 1, 2, 3, or 4, will initiate first stage, while the manual evac zone will initiate second stage. And TC4 will also automatically go into second stage after a 5-minute delay on first stage. So for initiating devices, you have a System Sensor 2100 smoke detector, and this will initiate first stage. And for second stage, or general alarm, the BNG1R pulse station. For signals, you have a Gentex HD horn and a Gentex GXS strobe. The strobe will flash in any alarm condition, and the HD horn is coded by the TC4 timer card. So here we go. TC4 had a bit of a hiccup there. But anyway, we've got audible silence. The strobe continues to flash. So zone 1 was the smoke detector, and then manual evac was the pull station. And the LEDs lit up accordingly depending on the stage. And then we have the rest of the indicators here. So we'll air out the smoke detector real quick and then we can reset the system. Should be good enough. And we're back to normal. And that's it for this quick demonstration of two-stage signaling on ADT Unimode 416. This is yet another example of utilizing I/O mapping on a System 500. If we integrate the selective signaling portion from the previous demonstration, then some floors can have evac stage while others remain on alert stage. Such functionality is again quite common in high-rise systems and probably wouldn't be seen on a system this small. But then again, the TC4 can also be used for agent release and suppression systems. And let's take a look at that. For the last demonstration, we have this newer System 500. This newer cabinet and card design was introduced in the late 1990s. It was used up until when the System 500 was discontinued sometime in the mid-2000s. I'll put this one together myself. The cabinet came with a dress panel and that was all new in box. Both of these cards were also new and I stole the CPU from a Sensiscan 2000. Which I can show in a little bit. So it looks really nice. Ironically though, this System 500 is probably in the worst shape compared to the other two. This CPU might be on its way out because it tends to act up sometimes. So hopefully it behaves itself during this demonstration. So this System 500 has a suppression release system programmed to it. And to do this, it has a TC2 timer card on it. The TC2 timer card is in the same group as the TC4, providing suppression release and dual-stage coded outputs. While the TC4 has more circuits, the TC2 is more detail-oriented, with programmable time delays, an abort switch, and zones for controlling the outputs. All programming is accomplished on the CPU, as per usual. And while all these cards and the overall cabinet look different from the older System 500s, the panel remained nearly constant in its functionality regardless of age. As mentioned earlier, this System 500 is configured for agent release and fire suppression. So there's a bit of a busy demonstration system here. For initiating devices, we have a system sensor 1400 ionization smoke detector, a system sensor 2400TH photoelectric smoke detector with a heat sensor, and an MBG12 pull station as the manual release. We also have this button here as the abort switch. For the warning signal, we have a Wheelock MT, the newer style one with a horizontal strobe, and it's being coded by the timer card. On top of the panel is a Federal Signal Halon eye strobe on a game wall plate that serves as the releasing signal, and a Wheelock NS that is not part of the suppression system. It's part of the general fire alarm system. For this demonstration, the MBG12 pull station will sound both the suppression system and the general fire alarm system, so we can hear both of the Wheelock signals sounding and flashing. While suppression systems can vary depending on the setting, most follow the same premise of cross-zoning, where 2 or more zones must be an alarm for the agent to get released. For this system, both of the detectors are on separate zones. If one of the detectors activates, the system enters first alarm stage, where the warning signal will sound in slow march time, and this goes on forever. Once both detectors are activated, the system will enter pre-discharge mode, and a countdown will begin, in this case 60 seconds. During pre-discharge, the warning signal will sound in fast march time, and the abort switch can be pressed to delay the discharge. But this is only momentary. Once the switch is released, the countdown will resume. Once the countdown reaches 0, or the manual release station is activated, then the system will discharge. The warning signal will sound in continuous, and a halon strobe will flash to indicate that the suppression agent was released. At no point during this whole sequence is the warning signal or the releasing signal silenceable. The only silenceable signal is the wheelock NS. So, let's demonstrate this setup. So we'll start by activating one of the detectors, and then the second one. And we'll also demonstrate the abort switch while we're doing so. Hopefully I don't activate both at the same time. So that was incredibly loud. I aired out both detectors while the system was in pre-discharge mode. So now, let's activate the manual release station. Okay, I'm just going to flip the switch because it's really hard to open it when it's not mounted to something. And as mentioned before, the NS will also sound. So here we go. There we go. The MT is excruciatingly loud. It's not even set on high volume, it's set on low volume. The NS was also set on low volume, and probably couldn't hear it that well over the MT. And that concludes this demonstration of agent release on the System 500. Alongside two-stage signaling and selective signaling, these advanced features aren't seen too often in the field. Perhaps up in Canada, two-stage signaling would have been more common. As a matter of fact, the System 500 and System 5000 lasted out much longer in Canada compared to the United States. I guess this goes to show the versatility that these panels had, despite their small size. The System 500 maintains many of the features of its original counterpart, the System 5000, with some minor differences. One of the biggest is in size. While the System 5000 could be used in full-size cabinets, like that one, the System 500 is limited to these smaller cabinets, which gives it its maximum point capacity of 48. The CPUs are also slightly different. The System 500 can only have up to 2 rows of modules, these in the front and some right behind the same cards, whereas the System 5000 CPU can have up to 4 rows of modules. System 500 cards also lack any buttons below the LED indicators, which can be used to turn on outputs or indicate mapping on the inputs. But oddly enough, you can use System 5000 cards on a System 500 and vice versa. In fact, I demonstrated this on a Firelight Sensiscan 2000. Take a quick look at that. The Sensiscan 2000 is a larger version of the System 500. It could use the smaller of the full-size cabinets and had a maximum initiating zone capacity of 24 as opposed to 16. Nonetheless, it is still limited compared to the System 5000, and it used the same CPU as the System 500s do. Notifier also had its own variant called the System 2500, which appears to have been only used up in Canada. There's a good chance the System 500 can support many of the features that were exclusive to the System 5000, like the AMG1 and AIM200 modules, although this has yet to be tested. Maybe sometime in the future. Programming on the System 500 is nearly identical to the System 5000 and involves using a programming key that plugs into the CPU module. If you don't have one of these, you can always just use a 47k ohm resistor and wrap it around the programming key terminals. Outside of a few different menus and options, the programming interface is roughly the same, although it's a little bit different as there are no buttons on the modules. One of the more interesting features of the System 500 is its ability to be networked to other panels via the NIB96 network interface board. This card allows two panels to connect to each other via a master-slave configuration. The master panel connects to the card via an addressable SLC loop, and the slave panel connects via an RS-485 output, the same used for enunciators. Therefore, all master panels are addressable. That can be the AM2020, any of the AFP panels. Even a System 5000 could be a master panel if it has an AIM200 on it. While the System 500 is relegated to being just a slave panel, all of its inputs and outputs can be controlled and supervised by the master panel. Thus, in larger systems, the System 500 can act as a transponder with its own CPU and can control its own points in the event of a communications loss. While this isn't the same as the peer-to-peer networking of NotifierNet, both NotifierNet and the NIB96 networks can be mixed together to create a unique and wide array of panels across the network. So that is all for this overview on the Notifier System 500 file alarm control panel. I hope this video demonstrates just how flexible and versatile these small conventional panels were, especially for the 1990s. Nowadays, most of these that are left in the field are well over 20 years old and are slowly getting replaced with more modern systems. The System 500 is quite rare overall, so if you do get your hands on one of these, you'll have one of the most well-rounded and unique small conventional file alarm panels with features that rival that of even some smaller adjustable panels. In any case, if you have any questions or comments on the System 500, feel free to post them below. But until next time, have a nice day.